Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is January 10th, coming up on 10:30 a.m. here. If you guys are liking these videos, please make sure to click like and subscribe. It helps the YouTube algorithm. So checking out the current weather here, you can see we've got a weak front moving across Pacific Northwest right now, bringing some light precipitation to the region. Could be a wintry mix on the east side of the Cascades. And you can see our next system winding up out here north of Hawaii, tight gradient. You see that colder air to the north side of it and the warmer air to our south, marking the boundary of that atmospheric river coming into our region here. This atmospheric river is going to stream into western Washington and British Columbia, bullseyeing the Olympic Mountains of Washington and British Columbia here with some rainfall totals in excess of 6 inches during the event. The event's going to go on about 36 to 48 hours, so it is going to mark a strong atmospheric river for the region. If we check out the European here, this is the 12Z. You can see that colder air I pointed out on the GOES 17 there, and you can see the warm air being ushered up in front of this system. This is going to raise our snow levels up above 6,000 feet in many cases throughout Washington and British Columbia, with heavy precipitation falling. The snowpack will absorb a lot of that rainfall, but there is going to be melting, and especially for the lower elevations that don't have a very established snowpack, a lot of that is going to melt away here in this next event. So there are already flood watches up for most of the areas of western Washington. So taking a look here at the integrated water vapor transport here, this is for Monday night. You can see this start to move into the region here. And if we count it down, 3, 6, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, 36, 40, 39, 42, 45, 48, in upwards of 48 hours of precipitation for some of the mountainous areas of British Columbia, Vancouver Island, Western Washington here coming up with this event. And the snow levels are going to be high, so we do have some serious flooding concerns coming up here for portions of Western Washington and BC. Luckily, that atmospheric river kind of cuts off there just into northern Oregon, so Oregon's going to pretty much remain out of the woods here for the major flooding on this event. Here are the precipitation totals. I've got it looped here, and you can see some values up over 5, 7.5 inches for some of the mountainous regions, especially all the way up towards southeast Alaska even too. A very wet and warm rainfall event headed our way here. Here's the HRRR, the high resolution rapid refresh. You can see bullseyes for the higher terrain again for Vancouver Island and the Olympic Mountains. You can see the Cascades getting on the action too. A lot of this over here in eastern Washington is going to be a wintry mix. It could be kind of treacherous on some of the roads here as this light precipitation falls through some colder layers of the atmosphere. Checking out the NAM here, look at some of these temperatures. This mid-50s here on Wednesday for Seattle, and you can see really all the mountain areas except maybe the highest peaks are going to be above freezing. And so that's just going to exacerbate any kind of flooding if we get melting of that snowpack as we go. The European shows it here too, except for maybe some of the higher peaks in British Columbia, but most of Washington is going to be above freezing, at least for some portions of this atmospheric river event. Here's the European 12Z. You can see precipitation totals here streaming into Vancouver Island and the Olympic Mountains. You can see where the atmospheric river cuts off there just as it gets into northern Oregon. So maybe the extreme northwest tip of Oregon might have some flooding concerns with this, but you can see that precip really picks up Mount Rainier north through the Cascades into the British Columbia higher terrain. And even some of the lowlands of the Puget Sound look like they get on some of the heavy rain action here coming up. So this is Whistler. You can see 60 millimeters. That's just over 2 inches of rain. So again, I wanted to show this just because we talked about Whistler being the temperatures. Check it out. They're actually trending higher here a bit. So, it depends on how much that snowpack can absorb of this precipitation, but there is going to be some melting going on if we get some of these temperatures up around 40 degrees for, 6 to 12 hours there in some of the higher terrains. This is for Stampede Pass. This is Wednesday afternoon. Check this out. You're up into the 40s most likely here. And this lasts for, potentially a 24-hour period of being above freezing for a good majority of the Cascades in Washington. So we're going to have to watch that. It's not going to help with the pass closures and whatnot too. You get freezing and thawing and then heavy rain falling on snowpack. You can get avalanche danger. And that's what they've been dealing with up there, these avalanches, some of these snow slides covering the roadway and trying to keep it clear up there. So we may be looking at some more pass closures, even with the heavy rain and not with much snowfall going on up there. This is Quileute. You can see the control has up to 3 inches of rain. This is a 24-hour period. So of course, the entire event is going to be much higher for some of these areas. And this is not taking into account the terrain just off to the east. For example, the Hoh rainforest or some of the higher elevations, the Olympics, there's going to be some extreme runoff coming off into the local rivers there on the Olympic Peninsula. And you can see the rest of the country is fairly quiet. There's some lake effect snows going on, but you can see the flood watches. There's some high wind or some wind advisories for Western Washington also, but not too big of a weather maker on that front. Here's the 5-day outlook for Western Washington. I'm concentrating on areas that have the weather right now. You know, if Western Oregon gets more involved, or Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington, I'm going to cover those areas more. So if I'm not talking about your area too much, that's a good thing. So this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can see by the weekend we might start to dry off here. So something to look forward to. Just make it through this storm, and it looks like we might have another dry weekend here coming up for the Pacific Northwest. Here's what I was talking about for Spokane. Light wintry precip Tuesday, Wednesday. You know, it just takes a very thin layer of ice to really, you know, kind of push your car off the road, for example. You know, so be careful out there. And also take these flood warnings seriously. There was people that died in some of the flooding out here on the peninsula and out in Southwest Washington, you know, that they drove into high water and they were killed because they drowned and they tried to get out of their car once the car stalled. And yeah, so this is serious stuff. And this is going to be really bad for some areas of the Olympic Peninsula and potentially rivers flowing off the Cascades here in the next few days. So heed those flood warnings and do not drive into deep water. Landslide index, you can see we're starting to get back towards this line. Seattle and Tacoma still above the line, still susceptible. And this is not going to be good when the rain starts again tonight. I don't imagine this is going to be good when we start getting the rainfall totals again. We're probably going to go well above this threshold here. So, you know, watch for signs, and just, you know, if you're on the sloped areas, just heads up for landslide potential. And we talked about that in Eastern Washington here. This is something I found interesting here too. These are 2021 billion-dollar weather and climate disasters. So each one of these was a climate disaster that had the cost of more than $1 billion. You see California, the big floods of last January. We had western wildfires were a pretty big deal. Drought, severe weather, tropical systems, big Texas hailstorms. I was down there for that one in Texas. And those can cause pretty big damage. You know, they're smashing homes and windows and everything outside from car dealerships. But yeah, I just wanted to point that one out. I thought that was an interesting graphic. Check some of the imagery out from the passes. This is a truck driver who ignored warnings. I think this was White Pass, and he tried to drive through and he got just horribly stuck here. So yeah, heads up there. Don't try to go through a closed major mountain pass. And here's I-90 Snoqualmie Pass totals. We're almost to 300 inches now, which is almost exactly double what our 5-year season snowfall average is today. So the snowpack is going to be really good. This should be good for, you know, summer runoff and aquifer replenishment, and yeah, river levels should be good going on into spring for sure. And this is Stevens Pass. Check this out. This is what they're trying to deal with. You know, these snow slides coming across the mountains here, just kind of blocking the roadway. And this is probably going to continue for the next few days too. I mean, I know they're trying to get Stevens open now. Snoqualmie is open now. I think they're trying to get White Pass open now also, if I'm not mistaken. But I think there's going to be more of these snow slides. It's probably going to be temporary closures. So make sure to check ahead and check traffic conditions before you head out. And I think this is Stevens Pass also. I mean, look at, they're just trying to burrow a tunnel to get started and clearing these passes here. So let's take a look at the extended here again too. Are we still showing this change to possibly some colder weather going into late January? Well, it keeps hinting that we're going to go into negative territory here on the Pacific North American Oscillation, which tends to give us more ridging out over the Pacific and allows for systems to be of a more northerly nature. So that potential is still there. It still hints at it. And this is looking into, this is January 26th, for example, if you see in the upper right there. going into early February, notice that signal starts creeping our way and we get that ridging out of the Pacific and we start getting that cold air, this extension of the polar vortex moving down towards us into early February, early mid-February. So yeah, the signal is there. The models keep hinting at it. So it's just something to have in the back of your mind, maybe something to look forward to if you're a snow lover. Here's the GFS extended Pacific North American oscillation. It agrees with the European here. This is going late January here into February. So again, this is just FYI information here. This is just something to look at for snow lovers in the extended. And yeah, so I mean, I'm getting good feedback on these videos. I hope you guys are enjoying this. We got to get through this storm here, and then it looks like we might get a relative break, but I'm not going to go as far as say we're going to get a long break, just because you know how this winter's been, and it seems like things pop up pretty quickly after we go through a couple day break, as we're going through now. So yeah, this morning's little front was just a little teaser of what's coming, and we're going to get some pretty extreme rainfall amounts across Pacific Northwest here for the next 2 to 3 days. The temperature's going to be pretty warm and mild. It's going to feel nice out there, but just know that that means the snow is melting up in the passes and the mountains. And so use caution when traveling and stay out of those flooded roadways. So yeah, check back on Twitter for updates during the day today, and I'll have another video out tomorrow. I might do a live stream at some point tonight or tomorrow just to cover the atmospheric river and do some Q&A on that. So thanks for stopping by, guys, and I'll talk to you tomorrow with the latest.